So I don't know if you guys already heard about this, man, but they've been doing a bunch of drug busts on the north side and on the west side. Just arrested a bunch of TBLs, traveling Vicelords, again on the west side, and they've been targeting that gang a lot over the last 2 decades. Really, big money making gang out on the west side, man. But they just busted two guys who were actually working as cooks, but were moving. I'm not gonna say like a ton of weight, but at least from what the police caught, some type of weight as far as cocaine on the north side. It's dirty and it destroys communities, but that easy money, it pulls a lot of people in, man. So two men face felony charges. They're reporting, and a shout out to CWB Chicago on this after prosecutors accused them of possessing more than 4 pounds of fentanyl on the north side, and one of them is also charged with possessing 27 and a half pounds of cocaine. So I mean, that's kind of a lot. The street value of this stuff was over $1.5 million. So the men walked out of a home that Drug Enforcement Administration agents had put under surveillance over by, like, this was like between Wilson and Lawrence, in like the Albany Park neighborhood. This was on Tuesday afternoon. So they had this building under surveillance. So what tip they had gotten before this, they didn't say, but agents saw one of the guys whose name was Noe. He gave a large box to this guy Enrique, and Enrique put the box in his vehicle and drove over to another address over on Lawrence. So the feds then moved in. They approached him and at that address, and they asked him what he was up to. What he told the agents was that he had a box in his vehicle that he thought might contain drugs. So that's an interesting answer, right? And how the feds were approaching him and what they were dressed like, that's part of the puzzle here. But apparently the agents found 2,000 grams of fentanyl worth $311,000 inside the box. So the Fent, again, very, very dangerous stuff, killing people out here on the streets left and right. And he said that they also found a loaded ghost gun with an extended magazine. And having drugs and guns together is it's like an added charge. Okay, and I'll get to that a little bit later in the video. But the extended magazine was inside of a backpack that was inside the vehicle. Back at his house in Albany Park, agents stopped the other guy as he walked out of the home with a bag containing 1 kilo of cocaine. So he said agents searched the house with his permission, and they found another 12,500 grams. So, I mean, these are not small amounts. Altogether, the cocaine had a street value of $1,562,500. So their attorney said that both of the men are age 33, and they work as restaurant cooks, and that Noe is the only one who has a criminal background, and he's on probation for DUI and had an earlier DUI in 2015. So the judge set the bail for Noe at $500,000 cash bail, and that's different than the other type of bail where you only have to pay 10%. With this, you have to pay the full amount. So it's like the equivalent of having 10 times that. Okay, so that was on charges of manufacture, delivery of fentanyl, possession of cocaine, and they're not playing around with the fentanyl stuff, man. The other guy is charged with armed violence, and the armed violence one is what I was talking about with that having the drugs and the guns together. It brings a charge called armed violence, and it doesn't mean that it sounds like something it's not, because he wasn't actually being violent. Okay, so the manufacture, delivery of fentanyl was another charge that he caught, and aggravated unlawful use of a weapon. And again, the weapons charges, it makes it sound like he was doing something he wasn't. Armed violence, they said, is a state charge that essentially means that somebody is accused of possessing a firearm and narcotics at the same time. So his bail was set at $200,000 cash bail. And once again, as the media is pointing out here, cash bail amounts must be posted in full. Unlike the more common deposit bond, which requires only a 10% deposit. They got to pay the full $200,000 or the full $500,000 if they want to get out. This fentanyl stuff is everywhere now, and this is like widely known, but the stuff is like putting a revolver to your head and just pulling a trigger, man. This stuff is so dangerous. So personally, I think the penalties for that should be really high, because a lot of this stuff too, I'm not saying these guys were doing this, but it's going into stuff without people's knowledge. They don't know they're taking fentanyl, and then they take the stuff and they die off of it. So, yeah, very dangerous stuff, man. It's tantamount to like attempted murder. giving somebody Fent, in my opinion. You guys let me know what you think down in the comment section, man. So what happened with the Vicelords? There was a 40-year-old guy from Aurora who's among 13 people, they said, who were charged by federal prosecutors on Thursday for allegedly trafficking fentanyl and cocaine on Chicago's west side. So again, the same stuff, coke and fent. And this guy Terrence, he's among those charged by federal prosecutors, who said that the guy who's actually from the suburbs led a trafficking organization that operated an open-air drug market over by Chicago Avenue and like the 3400 block of West. So this is like a couple blocks east of Central Park on Chicago Ave, and like I've covered in a bunch of videos, man. That's like, where the C's and the T's is. It's like a border area. The traveling Vicelords and the conservative Vicelords. It's a very hot area, man. One of the hottest areas of the city. So this guy, Terrence, and others used the stash house in Chicago to store drugs and prepare them for delivery to an open air market, where they were sold to customers, according to the criminal complaint. So a 32-year-old guy, also from the suburbs, named Chevelle, is accused of supervising the collection of drug proceeds and meeting with Terrence to resupply the drugs as needed, according to the criminal complaint. So the majority of these 13 defendants, they said, were arrested on last Friday, after investigators executed a search warrant on multiple locations in Chicago and in the suburbs. Investigators seized 10 guns, 2 50-round drum ammunition mags, several extended mags, more than a kilo of cocaine, and more than 250 grams of cocaine containing fentanyl. So the question that always pops in my mind when I hear that, I wonder if the customers knew, if they were taking this fent together with the cocaine. So federal agents also seized 9 vehicles, and authorities said that they were used in the trafficking of the drugs. So many of the defendants, they said, including Terrence, are reported members of the traveling Vicelords street gang. And in addition to federal drug charges, the 13 defendants also face weapons charges for weapons that officials said were used in the trafficking of the drugs. So the guns and the drugs and the violence, it all goes together. I've heard a lot of times people say, they were handing out, these big sentences for drug crimes and talking about this, kind of like they were busting guys that were only up to that. Like they were just selling dope, just getting guys high, and that's it. And, I don't mean to sound like, this was like a fair deal, because the war on drugs was very unfair to a lot of guys. It was handing out like these exorbitant, like crazy sentences for, these drug crimes and stuff. And I've done a lot of videos on that, how, the sentences were just way too long. But at the same time, the dope, the guns, the murder, it's all connected, man. And I'm not saying these dealers personally were involved in murder or anything like that, but like I said before, when you put dope out on the streets, there's so much money around it and everything that murder inevitably occurs behind that dope. If it's not the dealers, it's somebody else, down the chain, or one of the addicts maybe. I mean, it just causes murder to happen. It creates an environment where that's more likely to happen. Like, it's all part of the same business. So this is a question that I struggle with, like if they catch the guys with this type of dope, is it worth giving them, some serious time? I'm not saying as long as they were giving them, but like some type of time, because, it all is fueling itself. So you guys let me know what you think down in the comment section, man. It's a very controversial topic, man, but it definitely turns communities into like, dangerous gang war zones. I mean, the dope game, big time. And the government's had a part in that, big time. The cartels, the street gangs, individuals, like everybody's in on it, because anybody that can't resist the lure of quick cash gets in on it. And who's that? That's like 99% of the population. You guys let me know what you think, though, in the comment section, though, man. Your boy Winnie Report. I'm out.